I'll go walk that in about 5 minutes if no one else shows up. And give it another minute here. How are y'all doing tonight? Good. It was a very windy couple days. So we're going to do a practice to really ground and find some stillness, which is kind of the work of the season, is to get more grounded, to find more stillness as things get busier, as we can tend to feel frazzled when there's a lot of stuff going on, when there's a lot of wind. It can even affect and make us feel anxious or frazzled, or just like, things are coming to us in all these different directions. And of course, we're all different. Some people are great with the wind. So I'm not great with the wind. My dog is great with the wind. But tonight we'll do a more grounding practice. And come on in, you're fine. I'm just gonna grab all the props, Emma. If you're at home, you're gonna want a blanket, whatever works. You can also use a towel, pillow or bolster, blocks or books. Let's get started here. So you can grab your blanket, everyone. I'm Jen, by the way. And we're gonna roll it up. You can roll it into a thick roll. And you can do this with a towel too if you didn't have a blanket. You could even do this with a soft pillow if you didn't have a blanket. And we're gonna sit on it. So we're gonna place it on our calves. And you'll want your blocks or whatever you're using as blocks nearby. I'm just showing you what this looks like. It's right on my calves, right? And I have the blocks right off to the sides of us. We're gonna sit back on our calves. If this doesn't work, you could lose the blanket altogether. You could also sit on the block, okay? Yeah, and then with these two blocks, we're gonna take Bu Mudra, and Bu means earth. It's a grounding mudra. So it's kind of like peace fingers. You're gonna have your index and middle finger together though, and you'll, tuck in the other fingers. And then we'll take the middle and the index fingers to these blocks, since most of us can't reach the ground. If you have longer arms and you can reach the ground, you can take it to the ground, but not if you're hunching, right? You can instead bring the ground to you. And it's intense, I know. Here with you guys in solidarity. Close your eyes. And just see if you can right now, closing your eyes, find your breath in and out the nose. And there's maybe a holding, right? Because we're bracing ourselves against this intensity. But see if you can invite your inhale down into the belly and hips. And as you exhale, can you feel that flow of breath moving back up the body? And some of these poses in yin, like this one, they surface all of our tension. So sometimes it's that physical tension that surfaces. Sometimes it's the mind, right? Sometimes it's a feeling like agitation. So your work right now is, can you find your breath and can you follow it? So inhaling down into the belly, feeling the belly expand. And as you exhale, feeling the belly draw back in as the breath flows back up. You don't have to have an Ujjayi breath. We won't be here too much longer. So this last little bit, can you stay with your breath, even as all, and maybe other tension surfaces? Good. And then from here, you can blink your eyes open, lift your hips up. It feels so good. Set that blanket away to the side. You can move your blocks to the side right now. And you have some options. If it would feel good for you to tuck your toes under and pop back up into a dog and stretch those calves out, you are welcome to. If dog would not feel good, you can come seated and stretch your legs out and even give your calves a little massage, right? Breathing here. If you are in dog, lift your hips, get a little more stretch, and just steady your gaze between the feet. So grounding your attention. And come back to that feel of your breath, the inhale down into the belly, and the exhale moving back up the body. And then with your next exhale, lower your knees back down to table. And we're going to come into a child's pose, but we're going to add some support. So you'll grab that blanket. You can keep it rolled even, or you can fold it. And you're just going to let your forehead come onto that blanket, and you get to choose the fold. We're going to have our arms on blocks or books, right? Flattest setting, not the highest setting. Your knees, if it feels okay to widen them and bring the big toes together, go for that wide kneed child's pose. And then as you come down, you want your forearms on the blocks. Your elbows can be bent. And I like to turn the blanket so that it's right where my forehead's going to fall. And once you get into this, you might have to adjust. So I'm widening my blocks. And to make it a little more comfortable for my neck, I'm going to fold my blanket a little bit more. So you want your neck to feel long and easeful. See if you can let your hips sink to your heels. And if that's not possible, you might add some support under your hips, like a bolster. And then that same breath we started with, can you draw your breath into your belly? And as you exhale, let it go. Inhaling into not only the belly, but the lower back, the hips. And just following that exhale back out. And as you are in this shape, see if you can soften your muscles a little bit more. Soften any doing. And allow your body to get heavier. Allow your hips to get heavier. And how he's saying that we've had this windy day today, and sometimes our mind feels like that wind, right? Busy, moving fast. Just notice your mind, how your thoughts are moving. You can also feel very scattered in a lot of different places. And sometimes just noticing if that's true for us starts to help us land here in this moment. Another 2 breaths here. And then with your next breath, you can take your hands down off those blocks and make your way. Just walk your upper body up. We're going to keep the legs in a child's pose. And I'll give you some options if it doesn't work for you to stay in child's pose long. You move these blocks aside. So we're going to come into a twisted child's. You might want the blanket. I usually adjust it a little bit, a little lower. So from here, we're going to slide the right arm under the left and bring the right side of the head down onto that block. And then you can reach your left arm up to the ceiling, turn the palm to face behind you, and just drop that arm behind the back. So the palm is resting on the low back, facing to the ceiling. And here, let your hips get a little bit heavier towards your heels. And see if you can find your breath again, that flow of breath. And in this shape, you might notice it in the front of the chest on that left side. And see if you can still draw the inhale down low. And the eyes can soften, maybe close altogether. And the work is to do less in each shape, to let the shape work us rather than muscling, rather than trying to change something or get further. And it's also to not have to get things perfect. So you can adjust these shapes if you need to. We'll be here another few breaths. And then you can unwind that left arm, come back up to center. And if your shins, we've been in this child's pose for a while. So if you need a pause before you come to the other side, if your feet are falling asleep, you could come to table, you could come to dog, you can stretch your legs out, whatever palate cleansing shape you need here. And just asking yourself, what do your body needs? And letting that guide you. Good. And then from here, we'll come back to that wide knee child's pose and we'll take the second side. So you can walk the right arm forward, slide the left arm under, side of the head rest down. You reach that right arm up to the ceiling, turn the palm, and bring that arm to the low back. And then letting the shape work you. What does that mean here? Right? Can you let your hips get a little bit heavier towards your heels? Not by forcing, but by doing less. Letting gravity do some of the work for you. Can you let your head get heavier toward whatever it's resting on? And then can you find that flow of breath through that movement of the body, of the lower back, of the waistline, of the belly as you inhale, softening in as you exhale. So we're working our body in a different way. It's going to have a different effect. In a more active asana practice, we're maybe building muscle, maybe stretching muscle. In yin, we're affecting more the fascia, which stretches a little differently than muscle. Another breath, you can unwind. Come back to table or dog or stretching out, whatever you need, whatever your legs need. And it doesn't have to look like a pose. Like sometimes for me, just shifting my hips side to side can feel nice. Extending one leg back, a cat cow. Let yourself move how your body wants to move. Good. And then from here, we're going to grab our blocks. You might want to blanket under your knee. We're going to come into lizard. So blocks or other support for your hands. If your knees need more support on this hardwood floor, you could use the blanket. Okay. And I like to start with the block super high, so more support will often allow you to get a little deeper. You've seen now, right? Those of you new to Yin, it can get intense in these shapes. So don't go to the furthest edge. They say go to the edge, right? Because it will get more intense. We'll take the left foot forward between the blocks. And then we're going to bring the block inside that left foot, and we're going to walk the left foot a little wider to the left. So show it too for those people that are watching. Okay. And then from here, you might walk your foot forward a little bit, or you might walk that knee back a little bit. Right. Once we're here, we're going to shift the hips forward. And some of you might be able to lower your blocks down. Okay, so we don't want to totally collapse in the shape. So if you're more flexible, you've got to put a little bit of work in by hugging the thighs just a little bit. Okay, if you're tighter, you don't have to do as much work because your body will hold you in shape. Okay, so some of you though might be able to come down onto your forearms. You might even be able to come onto the outer edge of that left foot, letting the inner edge lift and opening that thigh a little bit more. Okay. You want to make sure though that you aren't so deep in that you start to feel stuck, right? Because that actually starts to tighten things. That actually we start to hold our breath when that happens. So once you get into the shape you think you're going to stay in, come back to your breath. See if you can find that flow of the inhale down into the belly. And you might just see about turning the toes out. So if you're tighter, you might turn your toes out, and you don't even have to be tighter to do that. Sometimes that can give you more space in the hips. And again, maybe keeping more support if you feel too vulnerable by lifting the blocks higher, by backing the hips out. Okay. See if you can stay with a smooth breath, even when it gets intense. And then just notice if where your tension wants to hang out right now. Is it all in the jaw or the shoulders? And if that's the case, see what happens if you find that slight hug of the thighs toward each other. If you find a little more support, does that allow you to soften more in the upper body? So I said that in this practice, we're working the fascia. And the fascia is the tissue just under our skin, but it also wraps around every muscle fiber. It's what holds the shape of our body, the shape of our lives. And by affecting it and creating these new possibilities, we create new ways to possibly move. Another couple of breaths here. And then first walk your hands up. Okay, so we're going to come into I'm going to show you where we're going next. And there's different ways to get into this. Should have said take the bolster behind me first, but you're going to use your blocks and you're going to sit back. So off of the heel, not on the heel, right? So it's like this. Now, if this hurts the knee, you can just you can actually do it like this. You can bend both knees, walk them a little wider, and drop the knee, and then bring this one foot back and then extend. And you don't even have to bring it far back. The other thing is this foot sometimes doesn't feel good. So you can place your blanket underneath it and that might help. So you can adjust your blanket. So for me, that sometimes happens. And if I put my blanket right under the ankle, that helps. If you can, you want the foot pointing back, just to keep that ankle and that knee in agreement. And we're already probably, most of us have some sensation happening. So you can stay here, or some of you might be able to start to lie back. And if your bolster's really far away, I'll come over because I should have prepared us better for that. So you can lie back. This is an option. And if you lie back and that knee lifts, I'll let it lift. Don't force it down. So we're starting to get into the hip flexors. The psoas. You're welcome. Oh. Okay, so another option that I just learned from Arden here is if you wanted to and you don't want to lie all the way back, you just turn that bolster wide, chill back on it. So you can make these poses work for you. Now, once you get back, some of you who are like feeling really good lying back, if you wanted to, you could take your arms overhead, grab opposite elbows. If that feels too much, just bring the arms back down. Coming back to the breath. So the other thing about fascia is that they think it actually also holds our emotions, holds our memories. That's all like new and still a theory, but it's interesting. I mean, you've probably had an experience of being in a stretch or a shape and some feeling or memory comes up. From a yoga perspective, the mind and the body aren't different. They're just different aspects of us, like a quarter, the two sides. Another few breaths here. And then you'll start to walk yourself back up. Excuse me. And we'll just lean to one side and free that bent knee. Give a little massage or a shake, whatever would feel good. And moving the ankles can sometimes feel nice. A whole other side. All right, so when you're ready, we'll grab those two blocks. We'll come back to table. This time we'll have our pillow or bolster prepared behind us. Take the blocks on high. And now bring that right leg forward, right? And you know that we're gonna walk that foot a little wider, bring the block inside, and then you can turn your toes out, right? And that's gonna help you open this thigh out a little bit. And then you might walk the blocks forward. You might even walk the foot forward a little bit. Slide your hips forward if you can, right? And then if you're more flexible and your hips kind of start to really drop, find that hug of the thighs, find that little bit of muscle, okay? And then for some of you, you might lower the blocks And if you get into this shape, this is a very precarious shape. If you get into it and you don't feel stable, back out and find some stability, either by walking the foot back. Sometimes the foot closer in can feel more stabilizing, or hugging the thighs, or bringing those blocks up. On the other hand, if you feel like you can go a little deeper, you can lower the blocks and bring your forearms even down to them. The thing about stretching is that part of it, a big part of it, is our mind saying, I feel safe, and allowing us to go deeper. So how do we know when we feel safe in our bodies? Often a good way to find it is, are we breathing? That feel okay? I might bring this foot back a little bit, just so. Yeah. And then are we really fully breathing? So can you invite your breath lower in the lungs, lower in the body? And can you even slow your breath down without getting too involved in it, without applying any technique? Can you just slow it down? Can you find some inner softness? Especially in a pose like this that's intense, can you find that opposite? All of these are how we practice yoga. And then in another couple breaths, you can walk your hands back up if you've gone down low. You can bring those blocks back up high. So first way you can come into this, and I'll show you the other way too, is you just, right, I would use the blocks, sink your hips back, right? If that's not going to work for your knees, you come seated, both knees bent, walk the feet a little bit wider, right? And then you can drop the knees. This time we're going to have the right knee back. No, we'll have the left knee back. So you'll drop the knees to the other side. Don't even know what side it is anymore. Bring that second knee back. Extend the right leg forward. Okay. And then again, you have different options. You can stay upright. And both sides are going to be probably very different. Right? So if this side is challenged more, then you may not come lying back. Right? Or for some of you, this side might be more open. And it's work. It's work doing very little. Right? The work is to come back to the breath. The work is to find some softening within. The work is to not get caught in the mind. And you could notice where your mind wants to go without getting caught in it. Thrown in quite a few intense poses this week and last, which can keep us more grounded, anchored in our body. Another few breaths here. And then you can use your hands to walk yourself back up. So I like to just lean to that straight leg hip, sweep that other leg forward, right? And then for some of us, straightening the legs, massaging the knees, moving the legs can feel good. For some of us, maybe bending the knees and swaying them like windshield wipers might feel nice. Like just depending on what's happening in your body. All right, last shape before we come into Nidra. We're going to turn to face that bolster. You can bring that bolster around too. Feet are going to be wide, not as wide as you can possibly make them, just a little bit wider than hips distance. Okay, and you can even place a block under one end of the bolster, bring it a little more height. And then we're going to do a forward fold in this yin way, right? So you can start with your hands around your knees. And with your exhale, just start to hinge forward. And you can bring your palms under the forehead or fists. You want to be able to breathe. And your spine is probably rounding here, which is something we're often taught not to do. But we can let our spine round. And we can let ourselves move in different ways. So once you find the shape, just feel your feet, your legs meeting the ground. See if you can allow your hips, your pelvis to become a little bit more weighted. By doing less and less. Let the upper body become more weighted toward that support, that bolster. Then let your jaw unhinge. Your teeth might even slightly part. Notice that flow of breath again now into the low back ribs and the lower back, into the kidney area. And as you stay here a little longer, start to feel into the subtle shifts, doing less and less. And at some point, your mind might just drift off into a dream-like space and allow it. And at that point, it might feel like there's a wave of relaxation flowing over you. Notice your fingers, see if you can soften more in the fingers and the palms. The scalp, can you soften the scalp? And in another couple breaths, you start to think about making your way back up. So we're going to set ourselves up, and I'm going to suggest a way to set yourself up tonight for the Nidra portion. So we use the blanket. First, you'll take your bolster and you're going to have your blocks flat down. And you're going to just lean your bolster into the block. So this is going to support our knees. And it also can help us release that psoas, which can release some tension. And then we're going to take our blanket and you can unfold. So you have these two folds, right? Usually fold it over. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top part and kind of make it, we're going to make it so there's a little bit of space for our head. So I don't know how to describe this. I don't know if there's like a shape, kind of like a V, kind of like a half circle. I'll show what it's going to look like. And it's going to create this feeling of like a cocoon, right? When it's all like this stuff going on outside, all that wind, we're going to create a little cocoon to come into a space of stillness. So your head, you can have this kind of around your head. So it's around the ears and you just feel this support. And then the other part of the blanket under the head. And if you need more support, you can grab it. You might also want a second blanket because your body temperature will drop as you drop into a state of relaxation. With this other one, you want your knees about over it. Yeah. And so you want to feel comfortable. Now I'm giving you guys a suggestion tonight. If you come into this and it doesn't feel good, you can change it in any way you want. Does anyone need a blanket because they might be cold? Yeah. Anyone else? You're welcome. If you're at home, you can even do this practice in bed. Or I like to just put like the softest blanket under me and then another soft blanket above me. And then once you come into this shape, just notice how you feel. Like, how does this feel for you? And the areas that we are most commonly uncomfortable in general are the low back and the neck. So noticing those areas. And if those areas are uncomfortable, you want to add some more support or adjust. So you could adjust that bolster under the knees. You could adjust the blanket under the head. And then know that at any time, if you need to change your position, that you have permission. So just start by opening your eyes and softly taking in, without moving your head, take in the space around you. That's what your eyes can take in from this vantage point. And then if it's comfortable, let the eyes close. And as your eyes close, soften the very backs of the eyes. And just notice what the eyes see when the lids are closed. It might be darkness, it might be shapes, colors, shadows. Just noticing with curiosity, not with a need to see anything. Noticing that even when the eyes are closed, there's a part of you that still sees. And then just feel the sensation of your body meeting the support that you have under you. And you can bring your awareness all the way down into your heels and just notice what part of your heels are touching ground or weighted toward the ground. You notice where the backs of your legs meet support. How your pelvis meets ground. Where the spine touches and doesn't touch. Where the shoulders, the backs of the arms touch. And then the feel of your head landing on that support beneath it, held by it. And then just noticing the feel now of your breath, not changing it in any way. And feeling how, as your body inhales, there's a sense of the ground almost rising up to meet you. And as your body exhales, allow yourself to soften and receive that support. And if that's challenging, you might just notice if there's a need to hold yourself away from the ground or to hold on. And then you can allow that if there is that need. And then just start to notice the sounds in and out of this room. And let your awareness jump from sound to sound without having to identify or name them. And now see if you can just pick out the sounds out of the right ear. And then just the sounds out of the left ear. And then again, both ears. And then just with your awareness, follow your ear canals inward to where the right ear canal meets the right side of the jaw, cheek, where the left ear canal meets the left side of the jaw. And using your awareness, allow this area to soften. Notice any taste in the mouth. Let the center of the tongue soften. And then notice the breath at the nostrils, any smells. And then that slight warmth of each exhale, the slight coolness of the inhale. And then just watching the breath wherever you notice it. Begin to count down the exhale, starting at the number 27. And if you lose your count, begin again at 27 as many times as you need to. And now let go of the count. Whatever number you got to, let it go. Just aware of your body right now at rest. Maybe the mind also at rest. But something in you aware. Call to mind a place, real or imagined, where you felt or feel comfortable and at ease. And you can make this place very vivid in your mind. Calling to mind smells, sights, colors, sounds. And if at any time you want to return to this place in our practice, you can just by calling it back to mind. For now, let it go. And just visualize the night sky filled with starlight. And then at the point between the eyebrows, see, sense, or feel a point of rose-colored starlight. Soften and allow this point to reveal itself however it does. And then dropping down to the center of the throat, each of these points, rose-colored starlight. You might see it, you might sense it, or you might feel it. Center of the right shoulder joint, rose-colored starlight. Center of the right elbow joint, starlight. Center of the right wrist joint. Tip of the right thumb, rose-colored starlight. Index fingertip. Middle fingertip. Ring fingertip. Little fingertip. Center of the right wrist, starlight. Center of the right elbow joint. Center of the right shoulder joint. Throat center, starlight. center of the left shoulder joint, center of the left elbow joint, starlight, center of the left wrist joint, tip of the left thumb, index fingertip, middle fingertip, ring fingertip, little fingertip, center of the left wrist, starlight, center of the left elbow joint, center of the left shoulder joint, throat center, starlight, heart center, deep in the center of the chest, starlight, center of the right side of the chest, rose-colored starlight, center of the chest, center of the left side of the chest, rose-colored starlight, center of the chest, navel center, rose-colored starlight, center of the pelvis, starlight, center of the right hip, center of the right knee joint, starlight, center of the right ankle joint, tip of the right big toe, second toe tip, third toe tip, fourth toe tip, little toe tip, starlight, center of the right ankle, starlight, center of the right knee joint, center of the right hip joint, center of the pelvis, starlight, center of the left hip joint, starlight, center of the left knee joint, rose-colored light at the ankle joint, tip of the left big toe, starlight, second toe tip, third toe tip, fourth toe tip, starlight, little toe tip, center of the left ankle joint, starlight, center of the left knee joint, center of the left hip joint, starlight, center of the pelvis, navel center, heart center, throat center, point between the brows. See, sense, or feel this constellation of starlight in the body vast like the night sky. Notice again the feel of your breath. And you might invite in the sounds once again. And as you start to arrive back into this space, into your body, see if you can, the next few inhales, deepen the breath so that you feel it lower down in the body. Letting your breath guide you into more of your body. When you feel ready, you might start to wiggle fingers or toes. You might gently blink your eyes open and then close them again, taking in the space around you, but then coming back to that space within you. And at some point, don't rush, but at some point you'll roll to one side and just rest on your side. And as you rest on your side, you might just take in that practice we just did. Anything that is important for you to hold on to. Ultimately, that ground or that steadiness that we seek, we can find it within us. And you might, as you're resting here, just see if you can touch back into either that stillness or whatever you found in that practice. And as you're ready, you can make your way back to seated. Whatever way you'd feel comfortable. We're going to take that Boo Mudra again. So the index and middle finger touching and the fingers down on the mat, and just closing your eyes, feeling this connection to the ground through your hands, through your seat, and also feeling or noticing your own inner space. And then you can bring your hands to your heart, just bow your head in, bowing into all that is within you. Namaste. Your time. As you get up, you might want to just feel your feet on the ground and and